Begin today the Gemara on Daf Samech Daled, second line down from the top of the Yamud. The Gemara quotes what it said in the Mishnah regarding the Keren Marovis Droimis of the Mizbeach, the west southern corner of the Mizbeach. And there were three things that were done on that corner of the Mizbeach. It said in the Mishnah, Shloisha Dvarim. What are those three things? The Chata Sa'if, that the blood was sprayed on that corner. Then the carbon mincha that they would bring near that corner, and the third thing was the blood of the carbon chatas chitzainis that's poured in the foundation is also poured on that corner. So the Gemara says, what's the source for these three things that it's done in this corner? Chata sa'if hada madan. The source that the chata sa'if, that the blood is sprayed on that corner, the Gemara on Daf Samach Gimel brought the source of this. It's learned out from the mincha. Hagoshais, the fact that when you bring the mincha close to the mizbeach, has to be brought to this corner. The chsiv v'higisha el pnei ha-mizbeach, or in the pasuk it actually says v'higisha el ha-mizbeach. This pasuk that the Gemara is quoting, the Gemara before brought that it's learned from this that it says l'fnei Hashem, and it says el pnei ha-mizbeach. This was explained all on Daf Samach Gimel, that the only place where you have the front of the mizbeach and also facing inside the heichal is by the corner of Marovis Draimis. Because if you're going to go on Darim, then you're at the front of the Mizbeach. If you're going to go on Ma'ariv, then you're at the front facing the heichal. In order to have both, you have to be at the corner. And Shiyarei Adam, the fact that the leftovers of the blood is spilled on this corner and this place as well, the Chsiv, the pasuk says, V'skol dam apar yishpaich al yisayid ha-Mizbeach. You pour the leftovers in a place where there's a foundation of the Mizbeach. Now, it has to be in a place where there's a foundation, but it also says it has to be Lifnei Hashem. It has to be in a place which is near, in front of the Eibishter, so that therefore it has to be by the Draimis Maravis. That's a corner which has a Yisoid. We learned before, not all of the sides of the Mizbeach have a foundation. That's a corner that has a Yisoid, and that's still Lifnei Hashem. And when you want to have it also closest to where the Kayan comes down from the ramp. When a Kayan comes down from the ramp, so he goes to the corner of Maravis Draimis. It's close to the ramp, and it's also in the corner of Ma'ariv, which will be where there's actually a Yisaid. If we'll go to the wall of the Mizbeach on Darim, there's no Yisaid there actually. So we have to go to the Maravis where there is a Yisaid. Okay, so it's not the point of the Lifnei Hashem. It's the fact that only over there, by that corner, do you have a Yisaid.
The canvas is anyways.
There's a ramp there. Yeah, but there's still enough wall of the Mizbeach that's exposed, but there's no foundation there. They have to have that corner where you still have a Yisaid of the Mizbeach, as the pasuk says, El Yisaid ha-Mizbeach. The next thing it said in the Mishnah, Mul Maila Nisach HaMayim. So now, on this corner of Maravis Draimis, this is what we discussed. The three things here was on the bottom of the Mizbeach. Now, on the top part of the Mizbeach, Nisach HaMayim v'Yayin, the pouring of the water on Sukkis and Yayin by every carbon every day, v'Oila Sa'if, and the carbon oil of a bird, Kishihiraba b'Mizrach, when there's too much of these birds that are being done on the Mizrachis Draimis of the Mizbeach, which is the right place where it's to be done, as we'll see soon in the Gemara here. But when it's too much, then they would do the Aveda of this bird where on the Maravis Draimis of the Mizbeach. So the Gemara explains this last point regarding the Oila Sa'if. My time, what's the reason? Because you understand here from the Mishnah that really the right place to do the Aveda with the bird, Oila Sa'if, would be where? By Mizrachis Draimis. Why? By the Mizrach. So Rabbi Yochanan said the reason is Mipnei Shekroiva Mi Beis HaDeshen, because this makes it closer to the place where the ashes of the Mizbeach was put there. Why does the bird that's being done have to be done near that place? Because one of the things that's done with the bird is you take out the zefek, which is I think in English called the crop, and also the feathers of it, and they have to be thrown into that place where the ashes of the Mizbeach are placed beside the Mizbeach. Where are those ashes? They're right over there, closer to Mizrach, closer to the Mizrachis Draimis corner of the Mizbeach. So therefore you do the Melika and the Aveda with the bird in that corner, so you'll be close to that place where you have to throw the Zefek and the Neitza, the feathers of the bird. But now, in a case where you can't go there because there's too many Kainim, it's too busy in that corner, so then you would do the Aveda with the bird on the other corner, by Maravis Draimis, on the other side, on Ma'ariv. So now the Gemara says an interesting thing about this. Rabbi Yochanan, so Rabbi Yochanan says, Bo Yurei, come and see, Kama Godel Koichan Shel Kohanim. How great is the power of the Kohanim when they do their Aveda. She'en lecha kal ba'efes, Yoseh mimura v'noitza. You don't have in the bird something that's lighter than taking out that crop and the feathers. And now sometimes, and pa'amim, sha'akayin zerkan, Yoseh mishloishim or bishloishim ama. The kohen will have to throw this feather and this crop more than 30 amas of a distance in order to throw it into the place where the ashes are. In other words, since the place where the ashes are on the side of the Mizbeach, here we'll see now the exact cheshbon, how we come to this 30 amas. But in general, the ashes that are placed on the side of the Mizbeach are placed much closer to the Mizrach, because it's on the Mizrach side of the ramp. And in the time when it's too busy on that corner of Mizrach Raimis, the Kohen is doing the Aveda with this bird on the other side, on Marav Raimis, and part of the Aveda is that he has to throw the Zefek and the Neitza into the ashes. He's throwing it a distance of more than 30 amas. And the Gemara is pointing out, Rabbi Yochanan is pointing out that it's something which is light, because when you throw something which is light, you have to throw it with a much greater force in order that it should fly that far. That's the kayach that we see that they do in their Aveda. Now, where do we come to this number of more than 30 amas? Because the Tanan, we learned in a Mishnah regarding the exact spot of where the deshen, where the ashes was placed beside the Mizbeach. How did the Kohen do this Aveda of Trumas HaDeshen? Every morning, the Kohen would come in and with a shovel remove ashes from the Mizbeach and come down the ramp and place it in a pile beside the Mizbeach. And now when that pile got too big, they would eventually also, there was a place where they took it outside the Beis HaMikdash, but there was also the place where they put the ashes of the Mizbeach on the side. How is this done? Notal machta shel kesef, he took a shovel of silver, v'ala l'reish ha-Mizbeach, and he goes to the top of the Mizbeach. Upinas ha'gecholim elech ve'elech, and there are still coals on the outer side of the pile of the ashes, the coals that are still good. That he leaves this, so he sort of shovels it to the side. And then and then he shovels from what's inside, which is already all burnt up and has ashes. And he takes this, v'yoyed, and he comes down the ramp of the Mizbeach, higia l'ritzpa. When he comes to the floor of the Azara, where does he turn towards? Machzer panav klapei tzafon, v'haylech lemizrachi shel kevesh. So now he's going to turn facing back to the north of the Azara, and he goes to the Mizrach of the ramp. So he comes to the Mizrach of the ramp, and now he's facing the Tzafon of the Azara, which means that he's really facing in front of him the Dodem wall of the Mizbeach. And now where does he place down the ashes? Ke'eser amos, and he walks for 10 amis. Tzavar es agecholim al gabe aritzpa, and there is where he makes the pile of these coals or of these burnt ashes on the ground. Rachaik min hakevesh shloisha tvachim, and it's also removed from the ramp of the Mizbeach 3 tvachim towards the Mizrach, towards the east. So it's not mamish right near the ramp, it's 3 tvachim removed towards the Mizrach, and he's walking 10 amis in, and that's where he's placing it down. And this is the same spot where Makim Shenoisnem Mura V'Noitza, in that place is where the Kohen has to put the Mura, which is this crop from the bird, and V'Noitza, the feather as well, and V'Dishim Mizbeach HaPnimi, and when you clear out also the inside Mizbeach, and V'HaMenoire, and then from the leftovers of what burnt in the Menoire, that's where it's placed down in the Mizbeach, and the side of the Mizbeach. Okay, so now the Gemara is saying that based on what this Mishnah is saying here, regarding the place where the ashes are, and where's the Kohen standing when he's doing the Aveda with the bird, if it's too much place, too many people, that is, on Mizrach's Draimis, where is he standing? He's standing on the other side on Marav's Draimis. To throw it from Marav's Draimis all the way to the place where the ashes are, it comes out to be a distance of more than 30 amas. Okay, we'll see the cheshbon in a second, because the Gemara has a question on this. The Gemara, is that actually a distance that's more than 30 amas? Hani tfei mitlasim v'chad. It actually comes out to be a distance that's more than 31 amas. So why are we saying that it's only more than 30 amas? We're missing 1 amma. Okay, so now the cheshbon for this is, Rashi here makes the cheshbon, that what we're talking about over here is the Kohen is standing where? On the top of the Mizbeach. And he's right at the corner of the top of the Mizbeach. How wide was the entire Mizbeach? 32 amas. How wide was the ramp itself? 16 amas. So that means that on each side of the ramp, there was 8 amas. 16, the ramp, and then from the Mizbeach on both sides was 8 amas. Now when the Kohen is standing on the top, he's not standing all the way by the corner of the Mizbeach, because when you count the 8 amas of the Mizbeach, you have to take off 1 amma for the foundation, another amma for the Soiviv, and another amma for the Keren, the corner, the actual corner itself by the Mizbeach was also an amma. So when the Kohen is standing there, he's 5 amas removed from where the ramp begins, right? So then you count that 5 amas of that part of the Mizbeach, then you have to count also the 16 amas of the ramp, so that's 21 amas in the length from where the Kohen is standing to get to the spot where the ashes are going to be on the east side of the ramp. Okay, so that's 21 amas going that direction. Now coming down the other direction, you have a distance of 23 amas. Why 23 amas? Because we just learned here in the Mishnah, where was the ashes placed, the pile of the ashes? It was 10 amas in to the ramp. Now the length of the ramp was 32 amas. So if you're going 10 amas in, so that means that there should be 22 amas from where the ashes are to where the Mizbeach begins. But you have to add 1 more amma, because when the Kohen stands on the Mizbeach, he's not standing right at the wall of the Mizbeach. We learned before that the Kohen stands 1 amma in, that space where the Kohen would walk around, so the Kohen is standing by the corner 1 amma in. So therefore you have to count from the place where the ashes are to the wall of the Mizbeach, and then the spot where the Kohen is standing, 23 amas. Okay, so now we have there's 1 line from where the Kohen is standing, a line going from Maidev to Mizrach, that's a line 21 amas long, and then a line going from Tzofin to Darim will be 23 amas long. Okay, so now we have to make the calculation. If the Kohen is throwing the Zefek and the Neitza, he's throwing it in a diagonal line from where he's standing, that it should land into these ashes. How do you calculate how large that diagonal line is if you have 1 line 21 and another line 23? So the answer is, this is the rule, we have this in Gemara Sukkah and other places, whenever you have a square, the rule is that a diagonal line across will be, that if it's, let's say, an amma by an amma, then the diagonal line across will be 1 2/5. That's always the rule, 1 2/5, or 1.4. 1.4, that's what it will be. So now, applying it over here regarding what we're talking about, you have a square, it's not exactly square, you have a line of 21 by 23, so let's make it equal 22 by 22. Instead of 21 by 23, you can make it 22 by 22. So if you have 22 by 22 and such a square, what would be a diagonal line across? So 22 times 1.4 is going to be 30 and 4/5. In other words, almost 31 amas. So we have the distance of the Kohen throwing from the spot where he's standing to the place where the ashes are, 30 and almost 31 amas of a distance. Okay, but now there's another little detail that you have to add to this, because the ashes were removed from the ramp 3 tvachim. If they would be right at the beginning of the ramp, it would be just below 31 amas. But because it was removed another 3 tvachim, so you have to add another 3 tvachim to this. This brings you to 31 amas with another 2 tvachim, I believe. With another 2 tvachim, or maybe 31, I believe another 31 amas and another 2 tvachim. So it takes you just over a distance of 31 amas where the Kohen is throwing this crop and the feathers from the carpet, from where he's standing, to the spot where the ashes are. That's the cheshbon, more or less. I think I got it right. 31.1 that is, so it's 31 and 1 tefach. Okay, not 2, 1. Okay, thank you. So the question of the Gemara is, why did Rabbi Yochanan say that you see the energy of the Kohen and the Aveda, that they're able to throw with such a force 30 amas, more than 30, it should have said, according to this calculation, that it's more than 31. He's missing 1 amma. Okay, so the Gemara answers, Makim Gavri loy choshev, the space of the Kohen himself that he stands on, that space of his own body, we're not counting here. Okay, so the space of a human being itself is an amma by an amma, as the Gemara says in some places, and therefore over here we were counting the space of the body of the Kohen himself as part of this calculation, that there's 23 amas going from, or 21 amas going from from Maidev to Mizrach in that line. So we have to deduct that 1 amma of the body of the Kohen himself, and therefore it's going to be more than 30 amas and less than 31 amas, and that's the distance that Rabbi Yochanan was speaking about.
The only thing I
Okay.
don't understand, is he was on the Rish.
Yeah, the top of the Mizbeach. Yeah.
And
This is all the way on the ground.
How did he get there? And
It makes it easier, no? If you're throwing it from a high place
so-
down to it makes it easier to throw it there, no?
Where was he, and where was if he was on the other side?
Yeah.
And he never saw the place for
Well,
Welcome
he's-
Destin.
why not? He's standing pretty high up. He's 9 amas up from
then
the
he
ground.
he's dropping it. You said.
He's throwing it down.
The other
Can't
side.
drop it. It's on the other side of the ramp.
The ramp is blocking it.
So
well,
how do you see it? That's what I'm saying. How do you see it?
If you're standing 9 amas high and it's on the other side of the ramp, he might be able to see it, maybe not, I'm not sure, but he should be able to see it, and you have to have also good aim. He doesn't even talk about the good aim. He has to be able to land exactly in that spot. Okay, so now you know I have to practice. No, they practiced, and this was a special Aveda that they did. They were able to get it right. Okay, it said in the Mishnah, Kala Eilam leMizbeach. Usually, when you go up on the Mizbeach, they always turn towards the right. But there's the exception of 3 things that it said in the Mishnah that they made a turn towards the left. When they went up with the wine to pour on the corner of Marav's Dreimis and with the water, and also with the bird, they did not make a turn in the right and go around the Mizbeach, but they made a turn to the left and go right away to that corner. My time, what's the reason for this? Rabbi Yechanan, so Rabbi Yechanan says, the Zevochim, when you're taking the wine or the water that have to be poured in the Mizbeach, the reason they didn't go around from the right side is because Shema Yisashnu. And the quality of it could get ruined from the smoke of the Mizbeach. And Vayla Sa'if, when you're taking a bird, it also has to be done over there on the top in that corner. Shema Thomas Bashan. It may die with the smoke, so you don't want to go all around. So the Gemara asks in this, V'ramini will ask you a contradiction on this. It says that when the Kayin goes up to do the Aveda, and he has to go around the Mizbeach, because he's not only coming to pour the wine on the Mizbeach or the water on the Mizbeach, but there's other Avedas that he has to do on the Mizbeach. So he goes around the Mizbeach. Ma'ayinu maschel. How does he begin? He goes Mikeren Dreimis Mizrachis. He goes up the ramp and he makes a turn to the right, and he comes first to the Dreimis Mizrachis corner. Then Mizrachis Tzvainis, then Tzvainis Maravis, and then Maravis Dreimis, comes all the way around back to the Maravis Dreimis, and then V'noisn lo yayin lenasach. And then you give him wine to pour on the Mizbeach. So the way the Gemara understands this now is that he was doing other Avedis as well, but he was holding the wine in his hands all this time, and he walked with the wine around and around until he came to the corner where there's the funnels that go down the Mizbeach, and that's where he poured it. So we see that we're not concerned about the wine getting ruined and smoked from the smoke when he walks around the Mizbeach. Rabbi Yechanan says, when he walked around with the wine, he's walking around with his feet to do other Avedas, and he's not holding the wine in his hand. He's walking around, and there's other Avedas that he has to do there, and then when he arrives in the Marav's Dreimis corner, there's other Kainim that hand him the wine to then pour it down the funnel in the Mizbeach in that corner. And Rava said, "They canami." I can prove this to you from the lashon that it says the Tani. It says Naisnin lo yayin. It says they give him there the wine. It doesn't say that he already has the wine in his hands and the kainim there tell him pour the wine. He doesn't have it yet because he didn't want to have the wine in his hands when he goes around. It shouldn't get ruined. And therefore this proves that we are concerned for the wine to get ruined. So this is talking in a case where the kain has to do other avedis. So therefore he's going around in that direction. And when he comes here to this corner, they give him the wine. But in a case where the kain is not doing other avedis, if he's going up just to pour the wine, then he makes a left and he goes straight up to the corner of his dreimus and pours the wine there. Tana Rabbanan and Abraisa, we learned this Inyan, Kol Oilan Mizbeach, Oilan Derech Yamin. The ones that go up the Mizbeach, they go up and they make a right turn, and then the Yardin Derech Smoil, they come down and they come down on the left side of the ramp. Oilan Derech Mizrach, they go up towards the east, the Mizrach, the Yardin Derech Ma'ariv. They're going up on the Mizrach side of the ramp, and they're coming down on the Ma'ariv side of the ramp. Besides those that are going up for the 3 points mentioned there, that's the Nisach HaYayin, Nisach HaMayim, and for the Oila Sa'if, Sha'elun Derech Ma'ariv, they go up on the western part of the ramp, and the Yarden Derech Ma'ariv, and they do the Aveda there in that corner, and they come back down on the western part of the ramp. Now, Oilan Derech Yimin, V'Yarden Derech Yimin. They're going up on the right side, and they're coming down on the right side. Gemara asks on this right away. This last expression, the Braisa says here that they're going up on the right and coming down on the right. Derech Yamin, Derech Smoilu. How is the Brisa concluding that this is on the right side? This is actually on the left. They're going up on the western side of the ramp and making a left, not a right. So Ravina says you have to amend the Brisa, Tni Smoil. It has to be read that they go up on the left and come down on the left. Rava says that you don't have to change the language of the Brisa. Ma Yamin, when it says here Yamin, what does it mean? Yamin the Mizbeach. It means the right of the Mizbeach. The person that's facing the Mizbeach, for him it's going to be on the left. But if you're looking at the Mizbeach and the front of the Mizbeach is Darim, so if you're facing the other direction, looking at from the what's considered to be the front of the Mizbeach, the Mairev of the ramp is actually considered to be on the right of the Mizbeach. Or my smile, and when it said in the beginning of the Braisa, it says that you turn left, it means smile the Gavra. That term smile means left of the person that's standing facing the Mizbeach. For him, it's going to be on the left. So the term right and left over here, in the beginning it means the left of the person, and then the term right means the right of the Mizbeach. So the Gemara asks on this answer, so v'nisni oi idi the Mizbeach, so why is it confusing you? Let the Braisa use the term of right and left. Either both should be the right of the Mizbeach or the left of the Mizbeach, or idi the Gavra. Or both of them should be the left of the person. Why are we using one term in the Reisha and regarding the person? Looking at it from the perspective of the person standing in front of the Mizbeach, and then afterwards it says the term right regarding the front of the Mizbeach itself. Kasha. So this pshat, according to Rava, remains a question in the language of the Braisa. How is the Aveda done with a Chatas Ha'oif? From the beginning until the end. What exactly is done with it? Okay, the next part of the Mishnah doesn't belong here. It goes to a different Mishnah. Okay, so Hoya Mailik Esreisha, you would cut off the head of the bird with the fingernail of the thumb. Mimul Arpa, from the back of the neck of the bird. The Eina Mavdal, but you don't separate, by the Chatas Ha'oif, you don't separate the head from the body. According to Rashi, this means that with the finger, he's not severing both of the pipes of the bird. There's the Kona and the Veshet. He doesn't sever both of them, only one of them, and therefore it will not be separated from the body of the bird. According to the Rambam, he does cut both of them, but he still doesn't sever the head completely from the body. And then umaza midama al kira mizbeach, you spray the blood from the bird onto the wall of the mizbeach. Now this is done differently than by a behemah. By a behemah you have actually a bowl where you receive the blood and then you pour it or you spray it in the mizbeach. Here you take the actual bird itself and you shake it and you spray it onto the mizbeach from the body of the bird itself. And then shiyare on the al kira mizbeach, that is, on the wall of the mizbeach. Shiyare adam. Then the leftovers of the blood, you would squeeze out on the wall of the Mizbeach, on the foundation of the Mizbeach. The Eila Mizbeach, Elo Doma, only the blood is poured out or sprayed and poured on the Mizbeach, or squeezed onto the Mizbeach from this bird of Chatas Ha'oif, but the Kula, the entire rest of the bird, L'Kainim, goes to the Kainim. There's no part of the bird otherwise that will be burned on the Mizbeach. This is the Chatas Ha'oif. Tanarabanan, similar to the Braisa, it says v'hiza midam chatos, that you spray from the blood of the chatos of this bird, miguf chatos. It's from the body of the bird itself. Hoketzad, how is this done? Oichiz bereishu beguf. He holds on to the head and the body of the bird, umaze, and you shake it and you pour it that way, or you spray it that way onto the mizbeach. It says al kir al mizbeach, on the wall of the mizbeach, v'lo al kir kevesh, not on the wall of the ramp, v'lo al kir heichal, not on the wall of the heichal of the Beis Hamikdash, v'lo al kir ulam, or not even the wall of the ulam either. And ve'ezeh, which part of the wall of the mizbeach is this? Kir hatachtem, on the lower part of the wall. The carbon chatos by a bird has to be sprayed or poured on the lower part of the mizbeach. So here we're talking specifically about the spraying. That has to be sprayed on the lower part of the mizbeach. This is a chiddush by the chatos ha'oif. By the chatos of behemah, it's actually sprayed on the top of the mizbeach. It's actually not even done sprayed. It's done with the finger. But by the bird, by the chatos, it's by the lower part of the mizbeach. How do we know this? Maybe it has to be sprayed on the top part of the wall of the mizbeach. And vidinu, I can tell you that this would be a kavachaymer when it comes to an animal. So the carbon oila, the blood is sprayed on the bottom. But when it comes to a chatos, the blood is sprayed on the top part of the mizbeach. Oif, when it comes to a bird, So by the bird, the carbon oila, the blood is sprayed on the top. We'll see this also here in the next Mishnah. So definitely I would say that the chatas as well, the blood should be sprayed on the top part of the wall of the Mizbeach. Talmud Loimar, so there's a pasuk that says regarding this blood, after you spray the blood, the pasuk goes on to say, but v'hanishar bedam, what's left over of the blood, yimotze el yisayid ha-mizbeach, is squeezed out on the foundation of the Mizbeach. And therefore we learn out, kir sha'ashirayim shaloi mismatzon li-yisayid. That just like when we speak about the blood that's squeezed out onto the Mizbeach, where does that go? Onto the foundation of the Mizbeach? So too the blood that's sprayed, that it says in the first part of the pasuk. In the first part it says, V'hiza midam hachatos al kira Mizbeach. So that as well has to be sprayed in a place where it's going to flow down to the foundation of the Mizbeach. If you're spraying it on the top part of the Mizbeach, it's not going to go down to the foundation, because you have the ledge, which is an amma sticking out from the Mizbeach, where the Kohen would walk on it, the Seviv, so it's not going to flow down to the foundation. So therefore you have to pour the blood, or spray the blood, on the lower part of the wall, that it should then go down to the foundation of the Mizbeach. And this is only the lower part of the Mizbeach. But the Gemara asks on this, why are we comparing this? V'naved me'iloi. Why can't I divide this and say that first you spray the blood, that's the first half of the pasuk, v'hiza midam achatos, you spray that on the top part of the Mizbeach, and v'hadar naved mitatoi, and then the next part of the pasuk, v'hanishar badam, you mutzel, you say the Mizbeach, it's only the leftovers which you squeeze out onto the foundation, that has to be in the bottom part of the Mizbeach. And for the first half of the pasuk, I should still say the Kal V'Chomer that we said before, that I learn out from the Behema. Amar Rava, so Rava answers, Miksiv Yamtze or Yamatze. Depends how you do. Does it say Yamatze? That this is to say that you should squeeze it out on the bottom part of the Mizbeach? And it doesn't say that in the pasuk. It says Yimatze Ksiv. What does the word yimotze mean? Yimotze is not even translated as squeezing. Yimotze means it will flow down. That when you are squeezing it, yimotze, the blood will flow down, which means the memela mashma. It's mashma as if this is happening on its own. Why is the Gemara using? Why is the pasuk using this expression? If the pasuk would say would use the word yamtze or yamatze, that would mean that there's two different actions that you could say are happening at two different locations of the Mizbeach. There's the spraying of the blood on the top, and then there is the squeezing it out on the bottom. But since it uses the term Yimatzeh, that it's happening memela, it's mashma that you're in the same place where you are when you sprayed the blood, and it's right there where you are going to squeeze it out, and b'derech memela, the blood flows down on the Mizbeach. And therefore this lashon of the pasuk indicates that the spraying and the squeezing of the blood should be in the same place, which is on the bottom of the Mizbeach, where the blood is going to flow onto the foundation. Amar Rav Zutra Bat Tovia, Amar Rav, Keitzad Melkin. How's the Melika done? So Chatas Ha'oif, Keitzad Melkin Chatas Ha'oif. How do you do the Melika for the Chatas Ha'oif? Now this is a little bit difficult to describe. I'll just translate the words of the Gemara, but really to understand this, you have to have a picture to see how this is done. They don't have a picture there, do they? No? Okay. So the way this is done is, Oiches Gapov B'shtei Etzbais. You hold the wings of the birds between your two fingers. That's between the pinky and the ring finger. So you're holding the bird. And also shtei raglayim, you're holding two of its feet down between the other next two fingers, between the middle finger and the index finger. B'shtei etzba'is. And umeiseach tzavara, and then you stretch out the neck of the bird al roichev godlai, on the width of the thumb of the kayin. So you have the bird that's positioned inside the hand, and you have the feet and the wings between the other fingers, and then the head comes over the thumb, and there is where the kayin does the malika with the nail of his thumb. That's how the malika is done. Now there's a machlokes Rishonim actually about this. Umalka, you do the malika there. According to I think Taisus over here says this, so the Rishonim say that it all has to be done with one hand, the right hand, because you have to hold it in your right hand, and then you have to do the malika with the thumb, with the nail of the thumb, also with the right hand. All has to be done in the right hand. So just like the actual malika is done with the finger of the right hand, the holding of the bird also has to be done in the right hand. And this is it's different sizes, but it can be pretty large, and it's a pretty difficult avodah. The Gemara is soon going to say.
Start practicing.
Yeah, but now according to the Rambam though, there's two parts. You could hold it in your left hand, and then the malika is done with the right hand, or with the finger from the right hand. because the holding it is not the actual Aveda itself. So you can hold it with your left hand, and the Malika is done with the finger of the thumb of the right hand. Okay, that's one version how this is done. According to this version, it says that where is the body of the bird itself? It's in the palm of the hand of the person, and the wings and the feet are in the fingers of the person, and then you have the thumb that's free to do the Malika. Now, masnita tana, in a bird, in the Braisa there is, it says this Malika a little bit differently. That Sipra, the bird, Milabar, he holds it it's on the outside, meaning it's on the back of the hand, not in the palm of the hand. Why? Because there, the Braisa says, Oiches Gapov B'Shtei Boys, he's holding the wings between two of the fingers, Shnei Raglayim B'Shtei Boys, and also the feet between two of the fingers, Umeiseach Tzavara Areichav Shtei Boys, Umailek. And then the neck of the bird is between the two fingers, meaning it's not, as the previous way it said, that the neck comes on the thickness of the thumb itself. The neck goes between the index finger and the pointing finger. And then you can do the Malika. Okay. So in order to have it in that position, the bird has to be on the other side of the hand of the person. And you do the Malika, and now the Braisa concludes, Vizu Aveda Kosher Mikdash. This is a difficult Aveda that was done in the Beis HaMikdash. Now, so the Gemara asks on this, Zuhi and Visu Lai, this was the only difficult Aveda in the Beis HaMikdash, and there's no other Avedas that it's said about it that it's difficult. But V'ha'ike Kemitze, it says about the Kemitze that it's also a difficult Aveda. The Kemitze, when you take off from the Karban Mincha, and you have the Kemitze of the Karban Mincha, which is mixed with flour and oil, and you have to take off the kemitza with 3 fingers, and then with your pinky and with your thumb, you have to smooth it out, but in a way that it should be exactly smooth. You can't take off too much, and this is flour and oil. It could break off, because it's mixed together. It could break off in a way that it's not smooth. It has to be perfect, that it should be, what's inside the 3 fingers should remain, and what sticks out should not be there. So that's also a difficult Aveda. And also, Chafina. The Chafina is inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim. The Aveda that's done with the Keteres inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim is also a difficult Aveda. So this is not only a difficult Aveda. Ella says the Gemara, Eimezu Aveda Kosha May Avedis Kosha Sheba Mikdash. This is one of those difficult Avedas that was done in the Beis HaMikdash. Here we learn about the Oila Saif. What are the details of how the Aveda with the carbon Oila for a bird was done? Ketzad Nase. So what are the details? How was this done? So Ola Lekevesh, over here, the Oila Saif has to be sprayed the blood on the top part of the Mizbeach, as we just mentioned before. So therefore over here, when you begin to do this Aveda, Ola Lekevesh, you go up the ramp, upon Ola Saif, you turn off the side ramp and you go to the Saivit, and Bala Leker and Dremis Mizrachis, you come to the Dremis Mizrachis corner of the Mizbeach, and there, you would do the Malika from the neck, and over here, different than the Chatos Umavdel. You separate the head from the body of the bird. Now the point about this Oila Sa'if that's different than the Chatos is, by the Chatos, the entire bird is given to the Kayin. It's only the blood that's sprayed or squeezed out onto the Mizbeach. By the Oila Sa'if, the entire body of the bird is going to be burnt on the Mizbeach, but in parts, piece by piece. Now, so the head is separated from the body. Umitza es dama al kira Mizbeach, and then you squeeze out the blood from the head and from the body onto the wall of the Mizbeach. So over here, regarding the Oila, you don't have to spray, like shake it and spray it on the Mizbeach and then squeeze out the body onto the wall of the Mizbeach. There's no spraying. You just squeeze out the body and the head of the bird on the Mizbeach. And then Natal es Hareish, he takes the head of the bird, vehikif beis mulikasai la Mizbeach, and you bring it close. Hikif of it means you bring it close to squeeze it on the Mizbeach. And then v'savgai b'melach, and then you dip it in and then saturate it with the salt. There was always salt that was on the top of the Mizbeach, so you put it into the salt. And then v'zaki al gabi yishim, you throw it onto the fire on the Mizbeach. And then the body of the bird also has to be burnt on the Mizbeach. But how is that done? It's not done all at once. Bale lugov, you come to the body of the bird, v'heiseres amure v'sanaitza. So first you take out the crop and you take off the feathers of the body of the bird. There's b'nei amayim. You take also out the intestines of the bird, hayotzin imam, that comes out with it. And v'shlicha lebeis hadeshen. And you throw this into the place where the ashes are, right? As we saw before. If you're standing close, you can throw it pretty close. If you're on the Mizrach corner, if you're on the other side, so then it's going to be a distance of more than 31 amas. Shisa, now the body of the bird itself, you have to split it, but v'loy hivdel. You didn't separate the two parts of the bird completely. V'im hivdel, if it was separated, kosher. It will be, the carbon is still kosher. And then seifkei b'melach, you also dip it into the salt, and v'zarkei al gabi ha'ishim. And you throw this onto the fire. If you did not remove the crop or the feathers or the intestines that come out with it, or you did not put it into the salt, any change that was made with the details of how this bird is burnt on the mizbeach, after that part that you squeeze out the blood on the mizbeach, ksheira. It will be kosher. Once you squeeze out the blood on the mizbeach, that's the main completion of the aveda of this bird. Whatever is done afterwards, even if it wasn't done properly, it'll still be kosher. Now, so there's things before though. Hivdil b'chatos, if by the carbon chatos you separated, you divided, you split open the body into two, v'loy hivdil ba'ila, and you did not open it up, you didn't separate or open it up by the oila, pasul. It'll be pasul because this is something that's done before you squeeze out the blood. Mitzah is dam reish, v'loy mitzah is dam aguf. If you squeezed out only the blood of the head of the bird and not the blood of the body of the bird, that is psula, it'll be pasul. Mitzah dam aguf, but on the other hand, if you squeezed out the blood of the body of the bird, v'loy mitzah dam reish, you did not squeeze out the blood of the head, ksheira, it will be kosher because most of the blood is in the body of the bird. So as long as you squeeze out most of the blood of the bird, it's kosher. That's what the Gemara says later on. Here the Mishnah continues and will tell us all the details of the halachas that we learned earlier in the Masechta regarding the carbon by a behemoth. All the halachas of psulim, shaloi lishma, pigol, which is shaloi bizmanai, and then the other machshave, which is shaloi bimkaimai. All those details of the halachas that it said earlier regarding the birds, the Mishnah goes through all of them over here regarding the oif as well. Both regarding the chatas oif and the oila oif. Let's see. Zok the Mishnah, chatas oif shemalka shaloi lishma. So when it comes to the chatas of a bird, that you did the malika shaloi lishma, meaning you were thinking that it's an oila or not the chatas, or mitzvah dam shaloi lishma, you squeezed out the blood shaloi lishma. Or if it was done lishma v'shaloi lishma, you had both kavanas, first lishma and then shaloi lishma, or the opposite, oy shaloi lishma, first shaloi lishma and then lishma. Psula. By the chatos, a kavanah shalei lishma will be possible. Just like by a behema, the chatos, a kavanah shalei lishma, we learned in the first Mishnah of the Masechta is possible. The same with the bird. However, when it comes to the bird, which is a oila, ksheira, it'll be kosher. But it'll be shalei also lebaylam l'shem chayva. The carbon itself is kosher, but the owner bringing this carbon did not fulfill his obligation. He'll have to bring another carbon. Now, echad chatas ha'oif, echad oilas ha'oif, both regarding the chatas ha'oif and the oilas ha'oif shemolkan, that he did the malika or shemitza as done when he squeezed out the blood, lechad, to eat, dova shadake lechal, regarding something that is intended for eating, or lahakter, dova shadake lahakter, or to sacrifice in the mizbeach, a part of the bird that is intended to be sacrificed in the mizbeach. And what was his machshava? The Kayan did this with the thought of chutz l'mekaymai, that this will be done out of its place. Pasol ve'ein by karetz, as we learned earlier in the Masechta. This is a machshava of psol that pasels the carbon, but if you then eat from this, you do not get karetz. However, chutz l'zmana, if you had the machshava that it'll be done out of its time, or you're going to eat from it out of its time, this is pigul. This becomes pigul than the chayav and olive karetz. If you eat from that any part that you had of this bird, that you had this machshava of chutz l'zmana, that's pigul, and you chayav karetz for this. The halacha of pigul is, in order for the status of pigul to take effect by a behemoth, and here regarding the bird, it's only if the rest of the aveda of this bird was done properly, and it's only this machshava of shaloi bizmani of pigul that you had, then the status of pigul takes effect, that if you eat from it, you're going to be chayav kares. Keitzad, what does it mean that it was done properly, other than the machshava of pigul? Again, Keitzad karamate kemitzvasai, what does this mean? Malak b'shtike, he did the malike without any not good thought, but just doing it properly. And then a mitzvah dam chutz l'zmanai, he squeezes out the blood with the thought of pigul that he'll be eat from this out of its time. Or the opposite, shamalek chutz l'zmanai, the malike was done with the machshava of chutz l'zmanai, or mitzvah dam b'shtike, he squeezes out the blood without any other machshava. Both the malika and squeezing out the blood, he did it with the machshava of pigul, that it will be eaten out of its time, but he did not have any other kind of machshava of psul in addition. So other than this machshava of psul, it was all brought properly. That means that other than pigul, it was brought all properly. And then the status of pigul will take effect. What means that it's not brought properly other than the machshava of pigul? By the maliki, he was thinking that it's going to eat it out of its place. That's not the machshava of pigul, out of its place. And then also, mitzah adam chutz lezmanai. And then when he squeezes the blood, he's thinking that he's going to eat it out of its time. Or the malika was done chutz lezmanai, or mitzah adam chutz lemekayimai. And by the squeezing out, he's thinking that he's going to eat it out of its place. By both, by the malika and squeezing out the blood, he's thinking that it'll be eaten out of its place. So all of this is considered to be a machshava that is another machshava, chutz l'mekaymai, that does not allow the status of pigul to take effect, because he also had another machshava in addition to passel it. Chatas ha'oif shemalka shalei lishma, by the chatas ha'oif. This is another thing, as we just saw, that by the chatas ha'oif, if you have the machshava of shalei lishma, it passels the carbon. So by the chatas ha'oif, if you had the machshava of shalei lishma, and then when he squeezed out the blood, he had a machshava of pigul that he eat it out of its time. Or the opposite, he did the malika having the machshava of chutz lezmanai and he squeezed out the blood with the machshava of shalei lishma. Or he both did the malika and squeezing out the blood, not lishma for this carbon. So since this is a chatos, and by the chatos shalei lishma passels it, this case and all the cases mentioned there, this is where it's not only a machshava of pigul, he also had another machshava that passels the bird, and therefore the status of pigul cannot take effect. The status of pigul only takes effect if it's exclusively pigul. Now, what happens if his machshava was lechel kezayis b'chutz? He had one machshava that a kezayis of this bird will be eaten out of its place, and kezayis l'macha. Another kezayis machshava was that he's going to eat it tomorrow out of its time. Kezayis l'macha, or first, let's say his machshava was to eat a kezayis tomorrow out of its time, and afterwards a kezayis b'chutz. And then the machshava to eat it out of its place. Or kechatzi zayis b'chutz, the kechatzi zayis l'machar. Half, and then first the machshava out of its place, and then a machshava out of its time. Or the opposite, first kechatzi zayis, that is, l'machar, half a kazayis out of its time tomorrow, and kechatzi zayis b'chutz, another half a kazayis out of its place. In all these cases, pasal ve'ein boy kadis. It'll be pasal and there's no kadis because you're combining the machshava of pigul with something else. And according to the Tanakama, it doesn't matter what comes first or what comes second. Even if the machshava of pigul was first, but if you combine it afterwards with the machshava of shalei b'mkaimai, it won't allow the status of pigul, that is, to take effect. Now, this Rabbi Yehuda argues, Rabbi Yehuda says, no, the rule here is as follows. If the first thought that you had was to eat this bird out of its time, that's the machshava of pigul. If that machshava came first, before the machshava samakayim, before you thought then another machshava, that you can eat it out of its place, pigul, the first machshava you have is pigul, and it takes effect. V'chayav and olav kadis. The machshava afterwards of chutz l'mekaymai will not change its status that it's already pigul. However, however, only if you first had the machshava to eat it out of its place, and then you added the machshava of pigul out of its time, then the carbon becomes pasul, but ve'en be'kadis, it'll not have kadis. And Chachamim disagree, and they say zeh v'zeh pasul ve'ein be'kadis. In both cases, if you include another machshava besides the pigul, in both cases it'll be pasul and there won't be kadis. This was the Tanakama and the Chachamim are the same opinion. This machlokes between Rabbi Yehuda and the Tanakama was explained by Arichas earlier in the Masechta regarding a behemah. There's a machlokes over there in the Gemara how exactly to understand their argument. All these details was already explained earlier in the Masechta, and it's just repeating it here regarding the bird. The Mishnah concludes with the halacha that everybody agrees to. Lechol kechatzi zayis. If the machshava regarding pigul on this bird was that he's going to eat a half a kazayis out of its time, but olahakter kechatzi zayis. So it's only a half a kazayis of eating, and then another half a kazayis that he's going to burn in the mizbeach out of its time, kosher. So that's still going to be kosher because she'ein achile v'haktare mitztarfin. A half a kazayis of eating out of its time and a half a kazayis of burning out of its time don't combine because they're not the same kind of aveda. It's not the same thing, and therefore the bird will not be pickled.